This guide provides all the abilities of Shannox, Rip Limb, and Rage Face. Before you can start the fight with Shannox, you will need to defeat mobs for him to spawn. Once he spawns, he will patrol the raid in a circle accompanied by his two Hellhounds, Rip Limb, and Rage Face. Shannox is one of the easiest encounters of the raid, but the strategy is a bit chaotic and will require fast raid adaptation. Shannox has these set of abilities, buffs, and debuffs that the raid will need to deal with. Separation Anxiety is a buff that happens when Shannox is separated from his Hellhounds for more than 80 yards. This buff increases the damage and attack speed of Shannox, Rage Face, and Rip Limb by 100% for 4 seconds. You will need to make sure during the fight that they are spread apart, but not more than 80 yards. Every 10 seconds, Shannox will replace his next melee attack with an arcing slash, dealing 125% damage of a normal swing to all enemies in a wide 120-degree frontal cone and inflicting the Jagged Tear on all players hit. Jagged Tear is a debuff that deals 6,800 damage every 3 seconds for 30 seconds, stacking with each new arcing slash. As Shannox is immune to taunt, he must be faced away from the raid at all times. You can reset your Jagged Tear debuff only when Shannox uses Hurl Spear. Hurl Spear happens when Shannox throws his weapon at a random player in the raid roughly every 45 seconds. Try to keep his weapon away from him for as long as possible to reset the Jagged Tear debuff. When the spear lands, a fire glyph will glow on the ground to show where the spear of Shannox will crash. The spear will land 3 seconds later, dealing 100,000 physical damage to all players who do not run out. Throughout the fight, Shannox will throw immolation traps and crystal prison traps at the feet of a random player every 25 seconds. The traps will arm after 2 seconds, so players must quickly identify them and move away before they trigger the effect. If caught in an immolation trap, the player will receive 100k fire damage and a lingering fire debuff that deals 75k fire damage. If caught in a crystal prison trap, the player will be frozen indefinitely or until the raid deals 2.8 million damage to it to destroy it and break the player free. The crystal prison trap can be used to trap either Rip Limb or Rage Face for 10 seconds if you drag them over it, but you need to be careful as once the hounds are trapped, they will receive the Wary buff which makes them immune to traps for 25 seconds. Rip Limb's abilities, buffs, and debuffs. Similar to Shannox, Rip Limb is immune to taunt. He will cast Limb Rip on the tank every 10 seconds. Limb Rip deals 130% damage of a normal swing and applies the Jagged Tear debuff. Each time Shannox uses Hurl Spear, Rip Limb will abandon its tank to go fetch the spear of Shannox right after the Magma Rupture eruption and return it to its master. This is when you drag Rip Limb and Shannox away from the spear of Shannox until the Jagged Tear stacks reset. You can use Slow on the Hound. Rip Limb has a Dogged Determination debuff that will prevent his movement speed from being reduced below 50%, and he will slowly speed up the longer he is being kited. You can drag Rip Limb over Shannox's crystal prison traps to freeze it for 10 seconds when Shannox uses Hurl Spear to delay the return of his spear, and buy more time for Jagged Tear stacks to reset. Finally, on heroic difficulty, both Rip Limb and Rage Face will gain a stack of Feeding Frenzy, which gradually increasing the dog's damage by 5% for 20 seconds for each successful melee attack. This stacks infinitely, so make sure that you delay Rip Limb when he goes to retrieve the spear of Shannox to reset its stacks of Feeding Frenzy and mitigate the damage on the second tank. Rage Face doesn't have any threat table. Instead, it will attack a random player for 15 seconds at a time and change the target throughout the whole encounter. Rage Face's abilities, buffs, and debuffs. Rage Face will cast Face Rage. This will happen every 45 seconds, which causes Rage Face to leap on top of a random player and pin them to the ground, stunning them and attacking them relentlessly. The target of Face Rage will receive 8,000 damage every 0.5 seconds, going up by another 8,000 with each subsequent attack, and quickly die if Rage Face isn't interrupted by any attack doing at least 30k damage. In this stage, every attack against Rage Face is a guaranteed critical hit, so most ranged DPS should swap and break Rage Face's Face Rage instantly. Similar to Rip Limb, on heroic difficulty, Rage Face will gain a stack of Feeding Frenzy, which gradually increases damage by 5% for 20 seconds for each successful melee attack. To mitigate how fast Rage Face will stack Feeding Frenzy, every player it targets should try their best to kite away from the dog with personal mobility skills and movement speed increases. Another option is to encase Rage Face in a crystal prison trap for 10 seconds while Replim has the Wary debuff. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you like my videos.